All right, so boys, I put a lot of work into this one this week, so get your bodies ready. Therapy Corner, episode 3. One more quest. One more quest. One more quest.
Well, if you put a lot of work into that one, maybe we should talk about how preparation might not be the best thing for your creative process.
God damn it.
Welcome to Therapy Corner. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As Nat said, we are going to be talking today about episode 3. So, Reed, today we're talking about how Dilbear approaches people, which is interesting and unique to say the least. Tell me your thought process behind that.
So it's sort of an exaggeration of how I greet people, with just being friendly and open very quickly. And it's based on 2 of my buddies from school, that one of them I got out of his shell a little more, and then him and our other friend kind of play off each other and took it to the deep end, and just first time they meet, people were like, "Hey, best friend," and kind of just whisk people into our friend group and slowly, just befriend people. So it's just how I normally do things, but to the next level.
Cool. Does anyone have anything they want to say off of that?
Yeah, I can jump in. So often when working with neurodiverse folks, specifically those with ADHD and more so autism, one of the things that we often find is that they are more likely to trust too quickly. And that's part of being on the autism spectrum. When it comes to Dilbear, I often see this like quick to trust thing. And one of the things that I'm trying as a DM to manage is not to take too much advantage of how quickly Dilbear is trusting, while also trying to like weave in a story of how it can both like not take advantage of people's trust, be done well, but then also we do have to, I'm trying to show to a degree eventually how that can be taken advantage of. And so it's been an interesting dance to balance just how friendly Dilbear is, because often a world's response to friendliness is to be friendly back, and especially when you're expecting people not to be friendly. So as I'm weaving this world together around this party of heroes, it has actually been an interesting challenge for me because of just how friendly they are. And I'm having to come up with new innovative ways for me to interact with players, which has actually been quite like a large amount of growth on my end. So it's been an interesting and exciting challenge for me.
I think you have a really good point, Nat. The whole friendliness sometimes, most of the time, begets friendliness. And kind of like treating the world with kindness is great, which I think a lot of this podcast and the group we have definitely tries to do. Definitely, as we have seen, we are not the first to treat someone violently in that sense. Larry, do you have any thoughts about what's been said so far?
I think with Dilbear's disposition, especially the way that Dilbear is usually the first one to speak to new NPCs or kind of approach them fearlessly, I would use the word. However warranted that might be in certain situations, has really been something interesting to work with from Sioran's perspective as well. I'm really trying to illustrate like kind of an ostracized loner from Sioran, which is very different with, or in contrast rather, is a big contrast to Dilbear's character. So I really like this difference in dynamic, and I think it does highlight how trust can be both abused, but also those who have been abused by trust can also themselves become closed off as a result of this trauma. And I think that's what Sioran is doing.
Very much so. That's a really good point, is that kind of finding a balance. And I think not to pick sides, I think Dilbear has somewhat playing that balance. As we're finding out, Dilbear is a human, quote unquote, with night vision. So we're not, I know who's played D&D before, humans don't generally have night vision, so we're not 100% sure what Dilbear is. So there is kind of a little bit of a lack of trust, as well as a willingness to meet new people, which I think is amazing. Any final thoughts from the rest of the group?
I think I am a little morbidly excited to see what happens, both within the party and without it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That excitement is leads to the depth of character, as well as, like, as we see with both Ernest and Sioran, this essence of fear of the world, which basically Dilbear is a good contrast to. It'll be interesting to see kind of the balance of both and where we end up. Reed?
I'm just excited to like slowly flush out all these things that Dilbear has hidden under his poncho, as we'll say. Just these little weird secrets and things that aren't like, you know, ghastly or vicious, but it's just entertaining, you know, little things that, yeah, he's super friendly and out there like on a surface level, but there's lots of things that as, you know, Sioran and Ernest get to know him better, they'll figure out and kind of get to know the real Dilbear. And I'm just excited to see how those two will react to that.
You said it has helped you kind of build a friend group and a study group. Tell me more about that.
So I guess me and a friend of mine, we were in a class and got roped in by someone I had met and studied with that was in my program earlier that we never really connected with then. And so we kind of met up with them, and there was a dozen people. And then by the end of a year and a half later, closer to the end of everyone's degree, between those two and just us raking more and more people in, the party we had before, you know, everything shut down with COVID and all that, there was like, I think 45 people in my little townhouse, which is absurd. So yeah, it expanded quite a bit just by being friendly and just inviting other people that are in our program to come hang out and study, and then hang out without studying. And then you have a whole group of people that all like biology.
You know, I know a lot of people struggle with making connections, especially neurodiverse people, just because of the differences and the difficulties they encounter. I think the podcast will help show how Ernest and Sioran both find their safe ways of doing that if we go down that road, and or Dilbear gets traumatized based by our lovely DM, and then no one ever talks to anyone. Nat, any thought?
I mean, I really hope I don't end up traumatizing Dilbear, although it'd be a fun... That sounds really bad, but a little bit it would be kind of fun to do. I don't know if I really want to traumatize Dilbear, although I think it would be an interesting challenge if I did try. But I don't know if that's one of my goals. I don't think it's my goals. If I think about it. One of the things, though, that Reed said that really, really caught my attention was the building of that friend group, that what sounds like a study community. I think you've kind of hit something on the head there. One of my passions is community building, and one of the biggest things to do is to be inviting and be friendly, and that is often, in my opinion and approach, one of like the foundations of like the beginnings of a community. Certainly not something as intense as like an intentional community, because that's a whole different ball game, but just a community to get together to like play games and stuff. One of the best ways I think to approach it, and this has helped me build like larger play groups with D&D and Magic the Gathering, is just that friendly and welcoming approach.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah. I think it's going to be cool to see the direction that these things about our characters go in, because I feel like while some of them are intentional and really well thought out, other ones are kind of nuanced and circumstantial that we become aware of as we discuss them. And I think that's giving us more access to our own characters and ways to flesh them out in meaningful ways and describe things that are maybe a little bit more deep and nitty gritty than just, you know, the fun of rolling some dice.
I think it's a great point, Laird. And I think that really kind of discusses the what we feel is the unique beauty of this podcast is we're not just rolling dice. We're trying to dive into a deeper aspect of D&D. It's why every other week you get a therapy corner. That'll wrap up this week's therapy corner. Thank you so much for listening. Episode 6 comes out October 27th, and we'll see you on the next quest.